Hello guys, welcome to yet another keyword. The keyword today is non-partisanship in our ethics keyword series. Again, as we have discussed previously, that this particular series is just not about definition and your quotations or your examples. This is a particular series where we will be taking each and every keyword and we will be understanding from a 360 point of view, right? So that if your marks is stuck at 75, 80, 85, right, it will help you to elevate the marks to over 110, 120. Okay, let's start. One of the most important value in public administration or bureaucracy is your non-partisanship, right, or being non-partisan. What is the definition? Non-partisanship or political neutrality means civil servant remains detached from party politics and serve whichever government is in power. So unlike your political parties which stays or does not stay for your 5 years or 10 years, right? Your civil servant will stay and will serve whom? Will serve the present disposition or the government of the day. Whoever the government is will serve that particular government. Now, which is very important in case of non-partisanship is that it is anchored in what? It is anchored in constitution and law. Let's understand, this is very important. Non-partisanship is anchored in constitution and law. So which is a particular article? Article 312. Whenever you get this particular question on non-partisanship, quote Article 312. Why? Because Article 312 creates this All India Service, through which act? Through the 1951 Act. It created IAS, IPS and it regulates the services, right? This is the first thing. The second is your Article 50. That is your DPSP, right? Article 50 does what? It separates your judiciary from the executive in public services, right? So there is no interference, right? Executive cannot interfere and hence maintain what? Maintain non-partisanship in your judicial pronouncements. And last but not least is, and this is very important, institutional, constitutional body institution, which is another institution, which is an important institution, Election Commission. Now, Election Commission plays a very major role in doing what? In maintaining the non-partisan manner of the bureaucracy during election, right? During when, like if you remember, when MCC is instituted, when Model Code of Conduct is instituted, Election Commission has an important role to ensure that the state machinery, the present state machinery does not favor, does not influence the election result, right? So this Election Commission, which is a constitutional body, right? Then constitutional provisions like Article 312, Article 50 does what? It makes sure that the non-partisan nature of our bureaucracy is maintained. We have understood the definition of non-partisanship and it is primarily means what? It means political neutrality. Remember, इसका मतलब क्या है? Political, to ensure political neutrality. उसके लिए constitution है, constitutional bodies है, articles है, laws भी है. We have remember 1951 law, right? Now we will come to the theoretical basis or to the philosophical basis of this non-partisanship and we'll understand three theories of it. The first and the most important and the theory which starts this non-partisanship in government is given by whom? Is given by your 28th president of the US, Woodrow Wilson. And guys, I think you will remember Woodrow Wilson for two reasons. What are the two reasons? The first reason, he showed immense leadership during World War I. Second, he tried to establish the world governance through League of Nations, which ultimately failed. But with regards to administration, he gave a theory called what? Politics administration dichotomy or politics administration dichotomy theory, which is a very simple theory. What it says, and we know this, what it says is this, that politics or politician, the elected people, right, the elected representative, they will do what? They will determine what the government should do, right? We elect a representative to implement our ideology, our the reasons why we voted them, right? So the politicians will decide. The politicians who becomes obviously the part of the government will decide what? Will decide what the government should do, right? And the administration, the civil servants, right, will decide what? How it should be done, right? So if let's say the government decides that we need to have an insurance system with regards to healthcare, right? So this is the political understanding, this is the political decision which let's say the government has taken, right? And the administration, the bureaucrats will do what? The bureaucrats will design the program how to ensure that particular, like that insurance is given with regards to healthcare to almost everybody, and hence we know the genesis of Ayushman Bharat, right? The genesis of Ayushman Bharat. And what are the contribution in this particular, with this particular theory? We have this merit-based recruitment. Merit-based recruitment of whom? Merit-based recruitment of civil servant, right? Then competitive examinations, obviously. So the concept of competitive examination comes from this particular theory, and most importantly, protection from arbitrary political dismissal, right? And we see it in our constitution also, guys, right? Go and check which article it is, right? Which also prohibits arbitrary dismissal of civil servants. Okay, now let's move on to the next theory. The next theory is given by none other than Max Weber. Now, Max Weber's theory, rational legal bureaucracy. Now, what does it mean? Rational legal bureaucracy. Now, it says that, now this is very interesting. It says that administration should operate through rational rules and legal authority. Rational. So, it should be written. Whatever is written should be followed. It should be written, right? So, this is an ancient concept from Egypt. It comes from Egypt, that whatever is written is the law. So, first is rational rules, that is, it should be written, right? Second is legal authority, that, right? Legal authority, that the person who is instituting that particular rule or particular law should be of legal nature, right? Should be a legal nature, right? So he gave this concept of rational legal bureaucracy. And so what are the, again, contribution in this particular theory? Again, merit-based system, right? Like person who is being selected as a civil servant should be selected from merit. Then hierarchical organization, very important. Hierarchical organization means that yes, there is an undersecretary, there is a joint secretary, there is a secretary, right? There is a chief secretary, right? So there should be hierarchy. Until and unless there is if there is no hierarchy, then laws, rules, decisions, right, will not be implemented, right? So you have to understand that if there is an inspector, there is somebody who is over the inspector, right? So the hierarchy is maintained to do what? Hierarchy is maintained to smoothly follow law and order, right? Then rule-based functioning, right? Rule-based functioning, as I have said, everything is written, right? For every decision that has to be made is based on the rules. It's not arbitrary. Last but not least, now this is a very important term that is associated with Max Weber. Impersonal relationship. Impersonal relationship means that there should not be your personal opinion, your personal likes and dislikes should not be brought in the administration, and most importantly, it not only should be brought in the administration, it should not also affect the decision making, right? That is your impersonal relationship. So official interaction should be documented. And we come to the last and one of the most important and very closer to our home theory, that is given by none other than our Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and he gives the theory of constitutional morality. Now we will have to understand what relation constitutional morality has with non-partisanship. Now, being state functionary, being an institution of the state, being state functionary means that you are a civil servant, you are a bureaucrat. Being an institution of the state means you are an ED, CBI or RBI, any other institutions that have been created by the state. There is a tendency that you are influenced by what? You are influenced under political pressure, under institutional pressure, right? You are under the pressure of hierarchy. Now, what Dr. B.R. Ambedkar say that particular value which helps you to remain true, to remain non-partisan, against being partisan, against being political, and against being non-neutral, is your constitutional morality. Is your constitutional morality. We will understand constitutional morality in details. Is constitutional morality. Now, he has taken this concept from Grote, another one of the famous philosophers. Now, constitutional morality means what? Constitutional morality is those values, those ideals, those ideologies that has been created around the constitution, right? It is not only an organic element which has grown with the constitution, and most importantly, it is something which our founding fathers have thought of it, right? So he says that those areas where the constitution is silent, those areas where the constitution does not categorically lay out rules, those areas where the constitution is in the shadow, in that particular area, in that particular region, we have to do what? We have to listen to our conscience. We have to listen to what our founding fathers, what were the philosophies behind, the constitution, right? How the constitution has evolved. We have to understand how the judiciary has interpreted the constitution, right? So constitutional morality is that particular element will help you to remain true under political pressure, right? It helps you to do what? It asks, like democracy, that it's just not about following laws, right? It's just not about adherence to laws, but through the democracy will survive. How? If you adhere to constitutional values and make sure that the institutional practice the art of restraint, that they do not get influenced by what? They do not get influenced by the political pressure, which often we don't see, right? So constitutional morality, what it means? It means paramount reverence for the form of the constitution. The content though is the form of the constitution, right? That if you have paramount respect for the form of the constitution, you remain true, you remain non-partisan, right? You remain neutral, number one. Second is self-restraint in the exercise of power. When we have seen many officers, we have seen, and we'll see some of the officers as an example, who heading a particular institution has categorically said no to the political dispensation of the day. That no, I will not deviate from the norm of the constitution, right? The unsaid values of the constitution, right? Hence the constitutional morality, and hence practicing what? Practicing non-partisanship, right? Last but not least, respect for constitutional methods and institutions, right? By whom? By not only the obviously the civil servants, but also by the politicians also, right? Which often they don't, right? So constitutional morality, there are other elements of constitutional morality, but these are the elements where you show paramount reference to the form, number one. Second is that institution exercise self-restraint. Third, and most importantly, respect for constitutional methods and institutions. The moment you do these three things, you do what? You follow the value of non-partisanship. And what happens if you follow the value of non-partisanship? You instill trust amongst the citizen. Number one, you build value amongst the co-workers. You ensure that the institution not only grows in value, not only grows in respect, but also make sure that because you're following the constitutional morality, you set a precedence. You set a precedence which down the line years, it will become the norm of that particular institution, right? So again, B.R. Ambedkar, according to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, one of the most important thing in order to maintain non-partisanship is what? Is to ensure that you follow the value of constitutional morality. Now let's understand some of the characteristics of non-partisanship, right? The first is merit-based recruitment. Remember Woodrow Wilson, remember Weber, right? They said that we have to have merit-based recruitment. For a reason is that we don't need we don't need people with political allegiance to populate the service, right? It will do what? It will corrupt the service, because one of the most important thing you have to remember, one of the most important thing with regards to the bureaucratic structure, what Weber has said is impersonality, like it's non-personal, right? Number one. So merit-based recruitment, and that is instituted through what? That is obviously instituted through your competitive exams like your UPSC, right? The second is fixed tenure and security of service. We know that the particular person, like if a bureaucrat is going against a politician because he has instilled faith in constitutional morality, a bureaucrat probably is going against the government of the day because he wants to ensure the integrity, the probity of the institution, he should not be arbitrarily and he should not be summarily fired. For that the constitution is there, and we have seen, be it Prashant Nair of Kerala, or we have your Ashok Khemka, right? Yes, they were suspended, they had been transferred number of times, but one thing is that they cannot be fired, right? It's a very difficult process to remove them. Then your anonymity and collective responsibility. Another feature of or characteristic of non-partisanship is anonymity and collective responsibility. Now let's understand why anonymity. If you associate yourself with a politician, right? If you associate yourself with a particular, let's say, government, whatever decision you take, whatever policy you make will be tinted by what? That particular political ideology. And that should not be the case, because you have to maintain the integrity and the probity of that institution, and you can only maintain the integrity and probity of that particular institution by ensuring what? By ensuring two things. Number one, that it is non-biased. The second, and most importantly, it is non-partisan. Right? So anonymity helps to do what? Whatever decision you take, whatever policy you make is not questioned. It's not questioned. Then you have collective responsibility. Again, collective responsibility towards what? Collective responsibility to ensure non-partisanship is maintained through and through, right? Again, another feature of partisanship. Then obviously non-involvement in politics, like conduct rules categorically say that you cannot wear a political badge, right? You cannot adhere or make political statements, right? And we have seen number of civil servants have made such political statements, and according to the conduct rules, they have been penalized, right? So these are the characteristics, guys, will remember. Non-involvement in politics, again a feature of non-partisan. Anonymity and collective responsibility because it helps you to maintain non-partisanship. Fixed tenure and security of service, right? Until unless there is fixed tenure, you cannot maintain non-partisanship, right? You will be taking some difficult decisions, right? If there is no fixed tenure, then what will happen? You will be removed. And last but not least, merit-based recruitment, so that people of integrity, people of merit comes to the service. Now guys, let's see some of the examples. One of the stellar example of non-partisanship is your Justice H.R. Khanna, right? And we remember what Justice H.R. Khanna did. He was the only justice to do what? To dissent against the suspension of civil liberties during the emergency, right? He was the only judge to do that. And like, the folklore is famous that he stood up against Mrs. Indira Gandhi, right? Then obviously, like when it comes to non-partisanship, we cannot omit the name of whom? The name of T.N. Session, right? He was our Chief Election Commissioner, and most importantly, he made sure that when Model Code of Conduct is instituted, right? When Model Code of Conduct is instituted, all parties behave within the fold of this MCC or Model Code of Conduct. Let's see some other examples. So another example will be our former President K.R. Narayanan. Now what did he do? Now he returned cabinet recommendations for President's rule in Uttar Pradesh in 1997 and Bihar in 1998, and the reason he said that, look, I'll not endorse politically motivated dismissal of elected government. President is above politics, right? It's a non-partisan seat, and it's a non-partisan office, right? We are above and beyond politics, and I'm not going to dismiss these two governments based on what? Based on politically motivated decisions of the cabinet, right? The second example is an excellent example, and this is very important example in present times, when we have seen that the role of the speaker has tilted, being partisan, right? What did G.V. Mavlankar do? G.V. Mavlankar, established conventions of impartial conduct. He established conventions of impartial conduct in parliamentary proceedings, emphasizing that Speaker is not representing a party. Speaker is the leader of the House. He is the non-partisan member of the House, right? So Speaker represents the House, not the ruling party. Unlike in UK, when a person is selected or has been elected as a speaker, what he does is that he has to resign from his party. In India, it's not the case, right? G.V. Mavlankar established this norm that the speaker is not representative of the political party. He is a leader of the house. He is a non-partisan member of the house, right? And hence he established what? He established an impartial conduct in the parliamentary proceedings. Then we come to one of the most famous personalities, and we usually tend to not mention his name, and one of the reasons why Rajiv Gandhi's government fell is this particular person, T.N. Chaturvedi. He was part of us, he was a CAG, and his report on what? His report on Bofors, right? His report on Bofors led to dismissal of Rajiv Gandhi government, and it reflected what? It reflected constitutional authorities in objectively examining political sensitive matters. It has to be very objective in nature, right? Even that particular person has been nominated or has been appointed by the government of the day, but when I have accepted a role, a constitutional role, my job is to be objective. I have to make decision based on facts. I have to be what? I have to be non-partisan. Then we come to an example, and this is an example not from India, and one of the famous example of non-partisanship is unanimously US court ruling that the Nixon government has to release what? Has to release the Watergate tapes. Very famously, and this also led to what? This also led to the resignation, impeachment, but he was not thrown out of the office. Before impeachment, he resigned, right? Led to resignation of President Nixon, right? So again, here non-partisanship has been shown by none other than the US Supreme Court, which is very partisan in nature, because the president themselves, select or appoints a nominee of the Supreme Court, right? And it gets confirmed by the House and the Senate, right? So by nature it is partisan, but in this particular case, the Supreme Court unanimously ordered President Nixon to release the Watergate tapes, right? Excellent example. Like this kind of examples you quote, you are definitely going to get good marks, excellent marks. Then we come to some of the quotations, right? So the first quotations, Lord Hewart, and I guess you have heard about these quotations, you have read these quotations, and UPSC might ask this quotation, right? It says that justice must not only be done, but must also be seen to be done, right? Now, how do we relate with non-partisanship? You will relate it with non-partisanship because you ensure that justice is seen to be done when you are non-partisan, right? Then then John Locke says, well, law ends, tyranny begins. And who is a person who is going to hold a law or ensure that the law does not end? It is a non-partisan being, right? A person who decides based on objective truth, right? Then last but not least, Thomas Fuller, and this is one of the exceptional quotes. It says, be you ever so high, the law is above you. Howsoever high you go, but law will always be above you. Howsoever high you go, howsoever high you reach, howsoever you soar in the sky, but you will always be beneath the institution of law, right? So that means what? That means that you have to maintain your non-partisan nature, howsoever powerful you become, right? You have to maintain your non-partisan nature, because law will always catch you if you be partisan, right? Law will always catch you because it is supreme. Law is supreme.